Hello, and welcome to the first episode of Off the Donut, which is the name that Gavin gave to me on Twitter, because I was too creatively drained to think of anything else. Today, on the first episode, we have Rookie with us here today. Rookie is an experimental instrumental artist. He's re-releasing his debut EP here on Lilybird Records. It's coming out this Friday, October 3rd, which also happens to be his birthday. You can pre-order the tapes in the description below or on lilybirdrecords.limitedrun.com. Hello, Rob. How are you?
I'm doing well, Dave. How are you doing?
I'm all right. So because this has just happened to be a thing, before we start the episode, we have to do a bev check and a snack check. You've already he can't pass the snack check, unfortunately. I have
No.
one Pop-Tart because I ate the other. I also have some water with me today.
I have some iced coffee, but it's right from the fridge, and I don't have any other food in the house, so no snack check today.
It's okay. Next time.
Right.
Um, so I guess if we just want to go ahead and get into it, my first question. So my understanding of the Rookie EP is that it was originally an assignment that was given to you, I think, in your senior year, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so would you mind talking a little bit more about like what that assignment originally was and how that sort of ended up kind of becoming into what the EP as we know it is now?
Okay, sure. So the assignment was called a capstone project, and it was given to everyone in my high school. I don't know if it's like a thing that everyone gets when they're in high school in Delaware, but um, in my particular high school, they had like an entrance thing, and I think the capstone project was to show how far you grew before you graduated.
Okay, that's
So
interesting.
it was really open ended in terms of what you could do, but you had to prove like you evolved leadership skills or personal skills or skills in whatever your project was based in.
Okay.
So I had kind of been playing drums for about 6 years at that time. So then I kind of turned around and was like, I've never written a song. Maybe that would be interesting to do for a
Hmm.
school project is write a little album. And because it's for a school project, it doesn't have to be the best thing ever. Or, it doesn't have to, meet my own crazy standards, which I like to subject myself to. So I was kind of into like synthesis at the time, like just learning about synths and like little drum machines and stuff like that. And so that kind of influenced me to make a little electronic sounding EP. And I don't want to get too far into it because I know you got some other questions that I might trample over before you mean to ask them to me. So
Hey, it's totally fine. You can say whatever you want to say. Um, all right, so then I guess the next one, what did you actually use to create the EP? Was there any like specific programs, samples, or sounds? Because I think I know one of them has something in it, but I'm not sure.
yeah, so there's actually a relatively a lot of samples on the EP. Like they're pretty much chopped and screwed to the point where you can't understand what they are,
Yeah,
except
I
for
figured.
maybe in Cheetah, where you can hear the beginning sample.
Hmm.
But as far as what I used to make it goes, I realized really early on that I wasn't going to be able to use like full analog equipment because the one thing I really wanted to make some like, even though they may have not sounded good, some really short songs using the Pocket Operator 33, which is like a sampler
Yeah.
sequencer type thing.
Is that the one that you had showed me before? Or
Yeah,
is
the
that a
one
different
that
one?
broke.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so it was just really hard to get anything right with timing or like having a song that was more than 16 beats,
Hmm.
because that's how many things you had. And you could have different patterns and stuff, but it was hard to switch between them and stay on time. So I was like, well, I don't have any experience in any DAWs or whatever. So what am I supposed to do to make this? And so I kind of just thought, well, here's something that's right on my phone. It's GarageBand, right? So
Hmm.
maybe if I just fuck with the presets enough or find some weird sounds, then it doesn't have to sound like it was made in some amateur program for people to mess around with music ideas. right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of the program I made it in. And the reason I used it was because, I was okay with limitations because I thought
Mhm.
ultimately it would make whatever came out more interesting to say like I did the entire thing in GarageBand. So I use but as far as like what I use to make it goes, almost everything in there is a preset. There is some stuff like I definitely imported into like maybe a sound snippet or something that I had to make in on a computer, and then import into GarageBand to use a crazy sample or something. But
Okay.
most of it is just like really chopped and screwed stuff from other songs. If you guys have a really keen ear, you might notice some Death Group samples in there.
Really?
Yeah,
That's
some.
great.
There's if I really believe I put this one in there. There is one from the Dismemberment Plan. If any of you can hear that one, I give you props because that one's hard.
Okay. I do. I have a I kind of want to go back a little bit to that first question. So you were just on your phone like in class. Is this something that you actually did in class?
Uh, Quite frequently, I would just like have a class that I didn't give a shit about, so I would I would be like, well, fuck this. I want to do something that interests me, and I would work
Mm.
on the music. And don't worry, I still passed pretty good, but it was
So this is just a project. Was the project for a specific class, or it was just like in
no,
order
you
to graduate, you
actually
have to do this?
yeah, it was that. It was a graduation requirement. So
Okay.
um
So it was supposed to be on sort of your own time in a way.
no, it definitely was. So I realized that, and I realized what kind of undertaking I was doing because how meticulous I am. I was going to have a little bit of time to work on this thing. So
Hmm.
in the I started in the fall, right right in my senior year, and then
Hmm.
it carried all the way until about like April, maybe a month before that, and then the whole thing was due in May. So I had all that time to spend time on the actual music, which was just 4 songs at the time, and then completely after that, I would just work on the presentation. And the main thing about presentations, though, is I usually keep the rule that a lot of people have where it's like you're supposed to put less on your presentations if you're going to speak more because people are
Yeah.
either gonna read or listen to you.
Hmm.
So I had the presentation, but I don't really know everything that was
That
like
was on it.
said in it. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So then, what was sort of like if it was something that was a little bit more open ended, especially if it wasn't really for one specific class, like what exactly was the grading process on that? Like,
So they did have a pamphlet that like this was your senior capstone class per se.
okay.
They did have a class for you to go to, but
Hmm.
since most people didn't really, I guess, have a passion or something they were so into that they wanted to work on as a project,
Uh-huh.
a lot of people just used it to fuck around, and I really didn't. I really was in there like every day tweaking shit in the tracks or even working on it at home. Like I would get bored or like not have anything else really
Hmm.
that I wanted to work on. So to put my productive energy to some use, I would do that.
How many
But
layers would you say are on like average on the songs? Because it sounds like you worked on like you tweaked it like a lot.
I'd definitely say there is probably 5 to 7 layers of like maybe instruments and samples and everything on each song.
Okay.
Um, I definitely I definitely know how to be a little more minimalistic and still have a weird sound. Like
Yeah.
on the 2 bonus songs that are now on the EP through your label. They're like a little more sparse in one of them. I think Sunglasses from Hell. It's like it's just a little more sparse, but I still think it captures some of the weird stuff I want to get in there.
Yeah. All right, so we kind of already answered this, kind of didn't. Was there any specific inspiration for how you wanted the EP to sound, or were you just putting shit together? Or were you trying to get the assignment done, or was there like a specific creative vision? Because you said if you were working on it from like fall to April, like that's a lot of time to sort of change how you might want it to ultimately end up.
Yeah, true. I mean, really, it was just like, what do I like from my favorite artists that I can put in here, but also at the same time, what would what would something I make truly sound like? Because I feel like it's easy to take ideas from musical genres and songs and things and be like, yeah, this is what I like. But it's hard to be like, what would it sound like if it actually came up from me and was organically something of me? So there are elements from like inspirations in music, but as far as I'm concerned, like I used as the tagline, it's kind of like the creative unconscious coming out to play, because a lot of it was just like me looking at cool sounds that really click with me and making those into a track. So um, I really you'll notice on a lot of the tracks, instead of like electronic drums, there's more of like sample packs from real drums, which just because I play drums and
Mm-hmm.
I don't really like the electronic drums sound too much for some songs. I definitely went more with the real sounding ones, and also they seem to give some tracks a lot more presence. Like they weren't
Yeah,
so,
it feels
full.
less like artificial or manufactured in a way.
Definitely. So that was a big thing for me going into it, was to make sure that everything kind of came from an organic place and wasn't truly forced in too much of a way. But one of the things I definitely came into this thing was like modulation,
Mm-hmm.
and also kind of getting my bearings with synthesis. So when I was like loading up a preset of a synth in GarageBand, I would be able to look at the knobs and kind of know what they did and be able to kind of find my sweet spot for some sounds, so that it didn't sound like I was using whatever Apple just gave me off the cuff. Um, one specific artist I think that I definitely wanted to channel for this is like Aphex Twin was a good one.
Yeah.
I just, when I sat down to make a track, I was like, well, maybe we could start this one a little bit like ambient, select ambient works or something, just
Mm-hmm.
because they're a little bit simple. They just got like a drum beat and a melody, and the effects is really where it comes in to make it what it is. So that was, and he has many different types of albums and stuff that branch across electronic music. So when
Yeah.
when I was like, a lot of stuff was from him, but at the same time a lot of stuff was from within. It was like, but he was one of the main ones I would point to and be like, he definitely knows what it's like to have stuff come to him really organically and make that his own music. Because you'll hear in one of his interviews, he frequently would just dream about a melody, wake up and turn it into a track, and it's
Mm-hmm.
like, that is so creative unconscious. It's kind of weird.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely know what that. I feel like everyone at some point who, whether or not they are someone who makes music, has had that kind of thing happen to them where like they'll think of it, they're like half awake and they think of this like great melody and then they'll forget it within the next 5 minutes and they'll be like,
Yeah,
damn,
it's
that shit
always
was so good. That happens all the time. Or that, or I'll remember it, try to figure it out on my guitar, have it be way too hard, and then just give up. And then by the next day, I've
exactly.
forgotten it.
Yeah, no, I totally understand that. That is definitely a big thing where but that's one thing I kept in mind too. Like a lot of stuff maybe wouldn't have sounded as perfect as I would like it to,
Mhm.
but sometimes to be content with that is good. Like I couldn't
Yeah.
spend forever on it. So I'm learn you have to learn to be happy. And that's one of the biggest things that would discourage me, is like, oh, this isn't as good as the next guy, I have to throw it out. But
Hmm.
I think it's okay to sometimes say, this makes me happy enough to say that it's mine.
Yeah. No, no, I would say that's actually really good.
Mhm.
One thing I wanted to mention is you said something about it as well already, is that idea, or that tagline of the creative unconscious. I think that's like a really cool saying personally.
Yeah.
You sent it to me for the bio for your artist page, and I was like, That's kind of sick. Like it sounds very much something like that would be in some sort of like critical review on some website like Pitchfork or Stereogum or something. Like it sounds very professional. Was that something that you came up with? Was that something that you heard? Was it like a mix of such, or
I
was
mean,
that
like,
your creative unconscious once again?
I think, well, it was something I kind of just like made up on the spot, but I
Mm-hmm.
probably had it in me for a while. Just like it was waiting for the words to come together and fall out of
Yeah.
my mouth. Um, I don't know. I really enjoy psychology, and psychology, psychology and philosophy kind of occupy a little bit of a similar space when certain people talk about them. So I was learning a lot about Carl Jung, and what his whole thing is the collective unconscious of humanity.
Mm-hmm.
And not to get too far into him, because you can get very far into what he
Yeah. That's a deep rabbit hole.
but yeah, I mean, like, just like I was watching a lot of lectures on his ideas from different professors, and I don't know, I guess maybe it was in my unconscious to be thinking about the unconscious,
Mm-hmm.
and that's where the tagline kind of came from, because it
Okay.
seems that the unconscious can manifest itself in many different ways in humans, and I think creatively, if you're a creative person, that happens more than you think. So
Yeah.
it's kind of interesting.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I like you said, it is, again, it is a deep rabbit hole, but I think in general, just the idea of the unconscious in general, I think is kind of like, in a way, kind of spooky. Like it's kind of crazy to think about the fact that like, all right, well, I have my thoughts that are occurring right now, but in like a whole different side of my brain, there's like 20 even things that I don't even know about that like I'm going to think about tomorrow and not
Yeah.
realize that like my brain was thinking about it then.
No, and it gets interesting because there's reason to believe that that collective unconscious is like something metaphysical that, like, you know, we share among humanity
Mhm.
in a way. So I mean, if you think about that, then there's certain waves of humanity that wash over everyone at a certain time, or kind of things you can sense that everybody knows. That's the weirdest thing for me, because it definitely happens where,
Oh yeah.
there's a collective feeling among a bunch of people that just that's, and we don't have any way to explain the conscious or the
No, we
unconscious
don't.
really.
Which
So
is the hard part too, because then you're just like frustrated because you know other people know what you're talking about, but you don't know how
I
to
could never
express.
explain
Yeah.
how it happens.
Hmm.
Not yet, anyway. Maybe we'll find out in the future, but right
Yeah.
now, it's such a mystery. Such a mystery.
All right. So then, with the re-release of the EP, there are, as you mentioned before, there are two additional tracks added onto the end, which is Fatma and Sunglasses from Hell. Was there a specific reason you chose to add any extra songs or those tracks specifically?
Well, I still had a lot of creative juices flowing through me after the capstone project was finalized and after I graduated. So I found myself on vacation, and I had no phone service at the time. So I was pretty bored at some points, like at night.
Yeah.
Me being kind of a night owl anyway, I would sit up and just work on some music. And I wasn't even trying to get anything out of it, just like trying to mess around and find more of a way around the program. So I was going to make a little thing called like the boat tapes, because I was on a cruise, and turning. It ended up not really capturing my attention in the same way, so I put it on hold for a while. Probably because I ended up getting busy with college, which is like way harder than the high school I went to.
Yeah.
So then, after I had some time, like this year, just whenever, I made up two tracks in the span of a couple months. Like, was really intrigued by what I was trying to do with them,
Mhm.
and when you have that musical itch, sometimes you just gotta scratch it. So I would definitely just like be like, damn, I want to make something. That's the kind of mood I'm in today. So how can I do that as easy as possible? I'm just gonna open GarageBand and see what comes out. So the first one I made was Fatma,
Mhm.
and that one was kind of like an earlier on one. I was trying to use a, a, a cool sample that I had found, and then I kind of just built the track around that. Same thing kind of happened with Sunglasses from Hell, because there was this cool little there's a story behind the name too. By the way, that I feel like,
Sunglasses from Hell.
yeah. So if you kind of notice, like, it kind of starts off really cool and I guess you could say jazzy, and then it kind of
Hmm.
devolves from there. It's like, well, this guy was maybe really cool and he was rolling down the street or whatever, and he had a pair of sunglasses on, and then maybe all of a sudden he got into a car accident or he was transported to hell, and then he comes back or whatever happens, you know? So that's kind of what I had in my mind, because it was like, it gets jazzy, then it devolves, then it goes back again. What could I call this? Maybe Sunglasses from Hell. But
That's that's interesting. It
yeah,
can be hard. It can be hard trying to find a name for an instrumental track because you don't have anything like any specific or any like obvious themes because there aren't any lyrics. But I like that. I like that you had the story behind it, and you were like, "Yeah,
yeah, I don't know.
great."
I don't know what you would even call that kind of stuff, but it happens to me all the time. Like, you can kind of just see things in different ways. Like, if that's a track, and you don't have to ascribe any meaning to it
Yeah.
based on the musical content. But when I listen to it, maybe I imagine like something's going on. I don't know. Maybe that's from watching like too much Tom and Jerry when I was growing up. So I think everything has to do with the music track behind it. You know?
You mean because like the music kind of kept in time with whatever was happening?
Yeah. So maybe I just ascribe meaning to music if it's instrumental. Like, I could
Okay.
imagine what it represents. Maybe that's synthesasia or something, but I don't really. It's not like to the degree where I can
Well,
see music.
I mean, I think there's like when it comes to books, there's sort of that same idea in a way of like when obviously when you read it, you are imagining what's going on in your head. It's a little bit different because obviously that's with like writing and literature and stuff. And so when the movie comes out, people are like, "Well, I didn't imagine it like this," and I was like, "All right, well,
Right.
you weren't the one who wrote it, so." Um, but I think that's definitely still a thing with music as well. I mean, it's there's very specific sounds that sort of give me the same feeling. I'm not like super. I haven't sat down and listened to a lot of Modest Mouse stuff. However, they have a couple songs out there that have like a very specific feel to it. Broke is one of them that they use a lot of like bending chords on that, which is one of it. I got into them because I realized that Peep had sampled that song off of I forget what one. But I was listening to Microwave the other day, their first album, and one of the songs in there, Tar, has a similar sort of bending chord to that, and that always kind of gives me. I don't know what the feeling is, but like I can like imagine in that when that chord bends, I imagine sort of like a wave of like color and stuff, which is also something that Psychedelic Pouring Crumpets also gives me a big feel for. But they're also sort of that band also incorporates a lot of visual stuff into their music, whether it be through the album art or just like anything. Um, I think the fact that they're also called Psychedelic Pouring Crumpets
Or in Crumpets.
has a lot to do with the fact that they're very intentional with their visuals and
Man, those
everything.
guys. That name's a head turner, man.
Oh my God, no! But it sure is. I my friend Jacob showed them to me. I think I want to say sophomore year, and I was like, dude, what the fuck? I'm not listening to this band. Like that sounds so stupid. And then I heard like 2 days later, I heard Him for a Droid, and I was like, oh my God. So
Yeah, they're pretty sick.
oh yeah, they have a new album coming out, which I haven't listened to the single yet, but I'm going to because their vinyl always they look disgusting in the best way possible.
Oh, okay.
Like I don't know if the variants for and now for the whatchamacallit are like weird. There's one that's like white, brown, and green, and it's like wavy and stuff, and it looks horrible, but
like
it's sick as fuck. Like it's super cool.
Yeah, I can get behind that.
Yeah. So you were mentioning something about you were calling it. I think you said the boat tapes or whatever.
Yeah.
Were there other songs that sort of came out of those sessions, or were Fat Man Sunglasses from Hell kind of your main focus on those?
There were Fat Man Sunglasses from Hell didn't really begin until sometime this year, like earlier this year.
So that was after.
Yeah, but that's kind of where I started to say, where do I go from here? Was the boat tapes, like, what cool ideas can I incorporate now? There are bits of songs that survive, but I think I deleted most of them for space on my phone. But now I have an iMac, or a Mac. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what you call it. So I don't really have to worry about the phone space too much anymore, and I can kind of just still make little GarageBand stuff. And I don't know where to take this. Should I get more into what I'm talking about on the Mac? All right. Yeah, so the stuff I'm doing on Mac, it's a little more involved because I'm not like playing on a tiny screen. I can kind of
you can see everything.
Yeah, I can kind of have that keyboard be more versatile. And there's also like stuff you can do in that GarageBand that is not expanded upon in the phone version. So right now I'm trying to look for more options to make more songs. Maybe I'll make a couple, maybe I'll make a track before the whole EP comes out. It's like maybe a little promo thing, which I'll make into like a funny little song with me narrating it.
Okay.
But yeah, I don't know. I just like working on stuff, and they don't always have to be finished for me to necessarily be satisfied. Like if I leave something and I say, well, I've learned what I can do with these kinds of noises, or I learned that these kinds of sounds go better together, or what have you. I feel like I've accomplished something, even if the track never sees the light of day, or even if the track isn't very good to begin with. So it's there's definitely stuff I would like to do, but I think my limited knowledge of music theory kind of limits me. Like I have some stuff innately, but other stuff is kind of out there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think in that same way, though, your limited knowledge of music theory, I think, can also be helpful, because I think when we give ourselves rules, or when we give ourselves ideas of how something is specifically meant to sound, I think that's already kind of limiting it, especially when it comes into that like more experimental field. So obviously, like, if every instrument is out of time and it just sounds like a bunch of whacking shit, then you're just going to be like, all right, well, I'm not going to sit down and listen to this, So there are some basics that I think should be in play there, but at the same time, I think it's good that you can be okay with like not having those basics every so often. It's a weird, it gets into technicalities and all that fun stuff, but
there's definitely like a couple parts on Rookie that are out of time with each other from my own little design, like to say here's a quirk, but like I meticulously would move notes in the little like editor there. So to say that I was totally incapable of making something that sounded like a song was wrong, but to make something that like I would really love to make, I just don't have that ability yet. Like if I could say write parts for different musicians that actually were right next to me and able to play sheet music or something, then I would be like at the top of my game, because really at that point I would have the knowledge to be able to do whatever songs I like. But like you said, that would probably drive me crazy with all the possibilities I would have. You know what I mean? So until I write the stupid songs and get them out of me, then move on to the bigger stuff, like Rookie, then I kind of need to stay where I'm at until I get the next bit of knowledge to where I can maybe move to the next step. So like from the beginning of making songs to Rookie, there was like a large learning curve on how I should be making songs, I guess. and I didn't always totally follow stuff I learned because it was supposed to still be experimental. So let's say in the next year, maybe I learn guitar, and then I'll be up to the next thing where I can really start grasping more music theory type stuff and being able to really maybe craft some unique melodies or what have you.
Mhm.
But I think just from ear, like just listening to so much music, you kind of know what sounds weird, what sounds good, but what
Yeah.
sounds weird in a good way. And I try to get the middle as most as possible.
Yeah. With that, with that, it that kind of reminds me a little bit of Yvette Young from Covet. Um, the I'm not sure if you listen to them or not, but they're this instrumental math rock band, and um, she was classically trained in piano originally, and then I believe she had to go to the hospital for a long time for whatever reason. I don't remember what. And to I think she said to keep herself sane, she started learning guitar, and since she had that classical training on piano, um, her fucking riffs are insane because she is originally a piano player, and so that a lot of using both hands translates a lot throughout the neck of the guitar. So that's one of the reasons why I like them a lot. And they actually have one song on their most recent album, I believe it's called Pirouette, uh, and it kind of reminds me a little bit of stuff that you had made on Rookie because um, the signatures are weird and it's the notes are kind of off, but like
Yeah.
it's one of my favorite songs on the album. It's like a minute and a half, like it's just like just under 2 minutes. But sometimes she'll play like the song starts off like how you think it would, and
Right.
then the second half it kind of like it cuts melodies and rhythms short and sort of is like
Oh,
one
wow.
note higher than it should be on like each of the notes. Um, I think it's a really cool song, and it's also one of the most energetic ones, especially in the drums on that one. Which is another reason why I love that band so much, is because while you have Yvette doing her weird, crazy shit on the guitar and everything,
Yeah.
you also have their bassist and their drummer trying to fucking keep up with it, and keep that backing track. So I think they're a really talented group.
I think every time you talk about Covet, I think you're talking about Basement, and I don't mean to.
Yeah, because of their song
So
Covet.
yeah, so I've never, I guess I've never checked them out, but I guess I'll have to now because then that
Yeah,
sounds interesting.
no, their stuff is great. Their first album, E Flores, phenomenal album. It's like 7 or 8 songs, I think, and Technicolor, which is their second one and most recent, has 10. But it makes me I'm sad because I have both of their albums on CD and vinyl, but on the vinyl version of Technicolor, they didn't have enough space, so they had to cut. They cut the first song, Good Morning, and they cut Pirouette off of it.
Uh,
So I have the CD of it, but on the vinyl, it
rip,
doesn't have that. So
rip to the vinyl.
yeah, but it's very, very pretty vinyl as well. So we kind of went over this already, but I just figured I'd ask this just in case you have any additional thoughts. How has the process been different for making tracks such as Fatma or Sunglasses from Hell or any other songs you made different than the original 4 on the EP?
Well, they weren't really tied to anything, right? So, going into them, I was just doing something for fun, but I didn't have the background of like a school assignment or trying to make something that was like 4 tracks.
Any
And
specific like motivation behind it or deadline?
um, no, not really. I mean, like I just really actually liked one of them, and saying that I might be able to put out my EP on tape kind of
Hmm.
got them a little bit more finished.
Yeah.
Saying that I might have a deadline definitely pushed them along to completion because obviously most of the track was there by the time we had gotten to talking about it, but
Hmm.
I kind of finished up the ends of both of them, and they come kind of from a place of just like what is this the coolest sound I can find on this thing, and how do I make a track around it? So, um, Fatma, if I'm remembering correctly, kind of has this like alarm sound almost that decreases as the track goes along and with the beat and everything. And that was like one of the coolest samples I had ever found on it, or like figured out how to stretch out long enough to make it like that.
Mhm.
And so I kind of just like was like, that would make a fantastic beat, like just a little beat with that noise as the centerpiece, because that's such a
Yeah.
cool thing to listen to. So that's how that came out. And then Sunglasses from Hell was like, did I call the last one Sunglasses from Hell?
I think so. Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
Track
that I'm
6.
I'm talking about Fatma in the last thing I just said. So if you thought it was about Sunglasses of Hell, I'm talking about it now. Okay. But Sunglasses from Hell was like, I went in there and I found this really weird, like crushed up horn sample. Like it's like a sax sample or something. I was like, wow, that sounds like pretty sexy and jazzy. Maybe I could make like some sort of a chill track out of it. And it didn't quite go the way I had expected to, but it almost sounds like jazz from hell, like if it was a little off kilter and maybe was gonna fight you in a violin battle or something for your soul. But
With the fiddle.
yeah. So and then I started being like, well, how do I make this track interesting? Because right now it's just like a little melody with some horns, and I can't get it to go long enough to be interesting to me. So how do I break it up? And then I kind of added that little part in the middle where it's like everything goes to hell, and then
Yeah.
so um, that was kind of the inspiration, was just picking out cool sounds and making stuff around it. I'll let you finish your Pop Tart.
Yeah, my bad. Sorry.
That's okay.
I thought I had more time as as you were finishing what you were saying, so I was like, I'll take the last bite, but it didn't work out for me.
Don't choke on it, all right?
I'm trying. With what you said, I think with Fatmo about that alarm sound, I can. One thing that I personally kind of associate that with is that it can be cool in like a weird way. Um, Vane, the hardcore band, has there's one song off of their first album called Anesthesia. I think it is, at least. I know it starts with an A, and it's like this alarm sound. There's this weird like droning alarm sound that I think they made with their guitar. It could just be a sample. I'm not sure, but it's like right in the middle of the album. And I remember the first time I listened to it, it annoyed the fuck out of me. Like I hated that song. I would skip it every single time. Because pretty much the entire song is just that. It's this like 2-minute track that sort of builds you up into the next one.
Is that on Error Zone?
Yes, it is.
Okay. I don't know why I don't remember that, because I love that album.
It's
So
yeah,
fucking
no,
good.
the album's phenomenal. Well, and that's what I was gonna get to, is that like when I first heard it, like I hated that song so much. And then I think one time I was like, you know what, let me just listen to it. Let me just listen to it. And now it's like one of my favorite ones on the record, because I think it does a really great job of building you up for that, because it's everything is kind of like sectioned into like 4 bars on that album, or on that song. There's the first 4 repetitions of that alarm, then you have another 4 where the fucking drums are like all over the place, and there's this really like quick beat over it, and then it kind of dies down, and then he comes in with the vocals, and then it comes in with the screaming vocals and everything, and it builds up. So I think where I'm getting at with this is that I think it's always interesting to see kind of where like you can take sounds that might seem sort of off or annoying in their own way, and kind of like make it into something that you can like really build something out of. And even if like people fucking hate it on that first listen, like there's a chance that it will grow on them at some point.
It was for that track, Fatma. It was and the reason like I'm having trouble remembering the names is because I scribed names to them at like last minute.
Yeah.
Titled for a long time. But for Fatma, that sound, that track is still kind of blissed out anyway. like it's kind of blissed out of a track, and it was hard to find a place for that kind of noise in a track that was like lower and slower.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it worked out good. And not to shit on the hardcore kids or anything, but like Vane is literally like probably the most interesting hardcore sounding band that I've heard in a long time. Like
Mhm.
I think a lot of that music is pretty stagnant right now, but Vane is pretty interesting with what they do. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
there's a lot of bands out there in the hardcore scene, and you know they do a lot of good stuff. The hardcore kids, you know, they're
Yeah.
good peoples. Okay, but a lot of their music is kind of like samey for me. So to hear stuff that's like sonically interesting while still making the hardcore kids happy makes us all happy.
Yeah. Well, I think when you get into that situation is that because hardcore, a lot of it, um because that sound is typically like very distorted, and you have a lot of those like guys with the fucking huge throats, so you can't even hear their voice over the bass, you know. It can get sort of it can be sort of stagnant, which is a reason, like when you have that kind of music, you have to, you, or at least for me, I like it when bands add stuff in, or change it up. One of the reasons why I love Knocked Loose so much is because they, they're Brian Garris, his voice is a little bit higher pitched. So it has a little bit more of that pop punk feel to it. Their their riffs aren't just like duh, 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 like that kind of
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
Their riffs are a lot more varied. They have a lot of breakdowns, but a lot of build ups. With Vane, I think the thing that they do really cool is they incorporate it's like Vane, but also Vane.fm. I don't remember if that was their original name or their name now, but they incorporate a lot of those samples,
Oh, okay.
and have they do a lot of like weird shit that they'll just like throw in there, off of the one fuck there's one, hold on, I gotta do some typey types. There's one song off of Arizona towards the end of it, End Eternal.
Yeah.
There's at the end of that song, in the beginning of the song, there's this one part where they kind of like break up and distort his voice for like 2 seconds, and then the breakdown hits, and at the end of the song they like do the little like dun 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 dun, riff, and then there's just that goodbye, and then it plays again, and it's just like it's this weird like little thing to interject in there, but I think it gives the track like so much more value because of it.
And yeah, that album definitely doesn't overstay its welcome at all.
Oh
It just
no,
like comes at you so fast.
yeah.
Fantastic.
Well, I mean, even just the intro, within the first song, Virus Vibrance, is like it's so fucking quick, and
Yeah.
it like that like little drum sample at the beginning, I think does a super good job. And just in general, that band is phenomenally talented.
Yes.
Like every single member of that band has you can I think it would be really cool to like watch one of their practices, because I think it'd be very interesting to see like what a lot of those songs were early on, and how they kind of coordinated with each other, because again, they all like they're at pretty much every moment of every song, each of them is doing something equally interesting.
Yeah, seriously. So like being a fly on the wall during all that stuff would be kind of really cool for a learning experience. Like, fuck, I was about to say something, but I forgot it.
Damn.
Damn. Yeah, I think that I guess where I was going with that was like live music, first of all, isn't even happening this year, but live music in general, I feel like has suffered from too much stagnation. And I don't know why, but I don't know. I have a lot of different influences, and a lot of the things they did that were really remarkable were like while they were on stage,
Yeah.
and what musicians needed to learn to have their shit together on stage. Like
Mm-hmm.
one of my big inspirations, you know, of Frank Zappa.
Yeah.
Really a pioneer of like just on stage tomfoolery and art. Like there was probably no band in the world better than whatever band he was training to do his songs, because first of all they were playing like compositions without sheet music, so they had to
Yeah.
remember all the songs from memory for that specific concert, because
Yeah.
he would have specific skits or things he would
Hmm.
do that would
And he had a
depend
lot of
on the
music out
music.
too. So there's a
Yeah.
lot that you had to remember.
No, seriously, and like you could play one of his songs like 6 different ways depending on how he wanted you to play it. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? So that, and like the stage antics they got up to, especially in the '60s, were nuts. Like just the stuff they did on the stage, and that's why they have the stuff like the album's called like "You're Not Allowed to," you can't do that on stage anymore,
Yeah.
because I don't know. I guess venue owners are not so privy on like just letting stuff fly unless
Yeah.
you're in some basement somewhere now, which
Yeah.
is kind of a shame. I'm
Well,
glad for house shows, because they're
mhm.
kind of saving that. Like maybe you can't do something so extreme because these places probably don't have great insurance for you to be
Yeah.
burning
And
down their
also
house.
people live there. Yeah.
Yeah, true. So, but they are like giving people a real space to share their stuff, and you can be really creative in those spaces with a limit, which is
Yeah.
okay. But I wish more bigger places were open to more grand ideas like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I remember with that sort of antics thing, I remember I saw Ghost Main a while ago. Uh, and I saw him at the Foundry in Philly. And have you ever been there before to that venue?
Yeah.
Okay, so you know how like there are sort of the rafters that are a little bit lower. So he had these guys on stage, and they had masks on, and I don't remember what they looked like, but the only image that I have coming to mind is like Predator, the way that mask looked like. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, he had these guys in like the Predator masks, and they were like hanging from the speakers, and then there were a couple guys like in the audience who just like were lifting themselves up, and this dude was like hanging by his ankles with his shirt off and shit.
Dude.
It was that show was fucking crazy. It was
Yeah.
insane on so many levels.
There are a few things as rewarding as like a fantastic live performance, and live performances are intimate until you like fill up a stadium, you know what I mean? So like those
Yeah,
kinds of experiences with an artist are going to be the ones that they
limited.
probably remember
Yeah,
some of the most, and probably the ones you're going to remember the most. Like I'll never forget, I saw death groups at the Foundry too. Or,
really. Oh my god.
yeah, I believe it was once at the Electric Factory. We may have gone to the Foundry for the second time I saw them, but either way, the one time I went, I was on the rafters, and then the second time, I knew I was comfortable enough for the mosh pits that went on at those fucking shows.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said earlier with the collective unconscious, there is something that music awakens in like people that are in that kind of space, and you kind of just all like fucking let loose and let all your aggression out, and it's
I
so
think
great.
I think for me the word that I would use for that is sort of primal in a way, and I don't know what it is about their shit. I think it's just because like I think because like their on-stage presence is so primal in a lot of ways. I mean, you look at MC Riot is he's fucking insane. Like there's no way around that. He's just fucking insane. You look at Zach Hill on the drums, and like, you know, his hair is all hanging in his face. He's not looking up. He's just like doing shit.
Yeah, their energy is very much like from a primal place. There's no other way to explain it. Like the way that Zach Hill drums, first of all, is like the most. In times, it's like the most primal. Like, just like he's very technical, but at the same time, he's like creating something like, yeah, he's like banging on a frequency on the drums that it resonates within you, and it resonates with some sort of primal thing. That's the same way with like Ride Screaming, and all the sample work and all the production by Andy is just like really brings it all together. Now, what I found interesting is I think that I heard somewhere that, or I read on one of the albums that Zach actually writes most of the songs, and then the production is handled by Andy, and I believe that the lyrics and the vocals obviously are
The
handled
delivery,
by
okay.
Stefan. But all their stuff is great. I have not listened to them a lot recently. I just think that um, where I was in that place is like why I listened to that music at that time. And I mean, while I still find it all very sonically interesting, I kind of like took a step back from it and I'm just listening to different stuff now because that kind of dominated what I listened to for a while.
Yeah. Well, I think I'm kind of going back with some with that and that sort of on stage presence is that I think um, when you have that opportunity to play in front of people and have them be in that same room as you, I don't want to say it's your responsibility to add something to it, but it can say a lot about your artistic integrity in a lot of different ways because you know the people fucking know the songs. They're gonna if they're there to see you, they're gonna sing along either way. So I think you know giving them some sort of extra memory on top of that. Like I remember I was talking to this one person that I knew, and she went to go see Churches a couple years ago. And they have a lot of like electronic work in their songs. And she was talking to me about it, and she was like, I was so fucking upset when I saw them because they would just start a song, play it, and then stop it, and then start another song, play it, and then stop it. And I was like, okay. And just like, well, but like, you know, they have the ability to transition into stuff. They have so many fucking synths up there, and they didn't do
Okay.
anything with it.
That I mean, I can understand that because when I saw Death Grips, and this is insane to think about, right? They started and they did not stop until they stopped at the end of
Yeah.
the show. That's fucking nuts, dude. Like
Yeah.
we both played live, like maybe even though it was once. That's nuts to think about, man. Like I think the only thing I could think of that's kind of like that was when we watched the act that followed us, "Shake the Baby Till the Love Comes Out."
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
stuff
That
is
was
incredible.
that they were, and they gave you tinnitus. They,
Seriously.
yeah, man, those guys, I mean, even just like the stuff on there, I feel like we didn't even hear any of the songs that they had on the record live. Like all their recorded music, I don't think they played any of that
I have a
because
feeling we didn't hear it. Yeah.
because the whole thing just felt improvisational.
But at the same time, like they're the only band I could say that is like on equal footing to, or maybe even better than like early Hella with Zach Hill and God, I'm forgetting the guy's name, but he was the guitarist, and like
Yeah.
they had such an energy together with their two instruments, Zach Hill and the other guy, and like Shake the Baby Till the Love Comes Out has the same kind of dynamic where like they don't need to speak, they just speak with all their
Yeah.
music.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And I mean, just watching them like their their time signatures were so fucking weird, and like
Wait,
the melodies were weird as shit. And it, you know, I kind of like watching them because I'm not sure what their names are, but um, their guitarist was just doing their thing. Like they were on the pedals and up and down the fretboard, and I watching the drummer, like every so often he would like look up at them for like a cue or whatever.
yeah.
I know there was the one bit where he would like, I think he like said something at one bit with this like
Oh
cheeky
yeah.
old like 1930s thing, and then they just fucking went into it and hit the crash and everything. Um, but yeah, they were just, that was insane, and I think that is such a distinct um memory that I have of that performance. And I think other musicians, obviously, like creating that same sort of energy is difficult, especially when across genre. But I think when you have musicians that take the time to transition into songs, whether that be on their own instruments or through samples that they play, or um, playing a song in a different way, taking a song that might be a little bit more chilled out and maybe speeding it up or doing the other one, or like vice versa. I think having putting that song, like you said with Zappa, like you could play one of his songs like 6 different ways. Putting a song that you have in sort of a different context, or like attempting to think of it in a different way, I think can really bring that song to life in a lot of different ways, because you just have there's other elements that go into it to sort of recreate that same feeling.
Yeah, I am kind of missing live music, man. You know, like all
Yeah.
the good stuff. Because I think that like live music is like nothing else, especially on like a human level. Like when you're at a live event, it's kind of a real brotherly thing. Like among all humans, like we all share the common language of music, and we can focus in on music that we enjoy. But when you're at a certain type of concert with just people, and maybe like I went to a concert a year ago, pretty much exactly about 6 days, give or take. But at that concert, I had never seen a jam band before, is what they're usually referred to. So stuff like Fish, or stuff like what's the other good one? So stuff like Fish, and there's another big jam band. But basically, I went to see one with my cousin who's really into that, and I've never listened to that kind of stuff before. But when I went to the concerts both nights, it was like even though I'd never heard this stuff before, the style of music maybe wasn't necessarily my favorite, because they would take a lot of people's songs and kind of jam out to them. I found their stuff pretty good, and I found the energy at the show to be like really cool. Everybody was really into the community, and also no matter who you were at the show, they really enjoyed the presence of people who were into the same thing. So even though I had never listened to or been to one of those types of concerts, everybody there and the energy that they gave me was still really nice, and I ended up really enjoying what they did with the songs anyway. So going into stuff blind is definitely also one of my favorite things. Like I honestly just go into like secondhand stores and pick up shit and figure out if it's funny or good or whatever. And that way you find some real gems that you wouldn't have ever picked up otherwise. I
Yeah.
like the random aspect of things.
Yeah. All right. So I'm going to ask this last question and probably wrap it up from there, just because I've very much enjoyed the live conversation, because like you said, we don't have any right now, and that makes me incredibly sad. I used to go, I basically used to go to like 1 or 2 concerts minimum, like once every 3 weeks. Like
Wow.
they would be like, I would have one, like at least one a month, and my dad hated me for it. But he was very uncomfortable with me going up to Philly that often. But yeah, man, that was like my main source of serotonin, and now it's just not there
Very
anymore.
true.
Because like you said, I mean, when you're in there, especially because when you boil it down, like it's a bunch of people there specifically to see that one act, that one band, and so you already have a connection with them, whether or not you know them on any level. You're already the same amount of excited as they are to see this one band and this one song live. So
Yeah.
it's nice having that sense of community. So again, last question I have, this is I'm assuming you plan to continue to release music under Rookie. Is there any sort of conceptual ideas or specific statements you're trying to make through Rookie, whether that be right now through this EP or on future projects?
Well, I think the one thing right now that is at least motivating me aesthetically is kind of like, I don't even know what you would call this stuff, but it was stuff that I grew up with, like early 2000s, kind of like early like computer graphics, and the aesthetics of certain things in the video games of the early 2000s or what have you. Like you can see stuff that I posted on my story on the Rookie account is kind of like the aesthetic background I enjoy that kind of fits with like off kilter electronic music. And I just think that I'll continue to make music. I don't know if it'll sound exactly like Rookie's first uh, exploration into making music, but I think as I move along, like I'll just be making music that comes from within me, even if the tools improve or even if I start using different methods. Like it may come from it may sound different, but it still comes from the creative unconscious, which in the amount of music that I've introduced into my life, I don't think I'll ever run out of inspiration, but you might see variants because a lot of those inspirations are very different. So
Hmm.
going forward, um, I would like to mess around more with guitar and stuff like that on tracks, but I'm content with how I'm making them out now. So you might see more of like the garage band stuff until I get some more monies. But moving forward, I'm still pretty much inspired by all that early 2000s kind of aesthetics in like computer graphics and like um, kind of internet aesthetics. And then musically, I think I'll still stick with some of like the Aphex Twin influences, like the Mouse on Mars influences. The Tuss is a big influence, and then just like I really like jungle and drum and bass, and like you may see me do some stuff where like I make a rock track, but like Vane or like The Garden does introduce some like jungle or drum and bass beats into that kind of stuff to kind of
Hmm.
call back to that. Um, but yeah, if you look at like kind of like Puzzle or Enjoy, which is like the two side projects of the two brothers that work on the garden together,
Hmm.
um, they can make whatever they want and it's still like very much them. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
when they come together, it's the garden. When they're separate, it's these two things. And that's kind of what I mean. Like that is totally their side precs are totally them through and through. And even though they're like they can be whatever they want, um, it's still them. So I'd say that that is definitely another big inspiration moving forward is how they think about music and how they release it. Like one of the projects that was just released from one of them is like sessions with a dirty old tree, and that was super interesting because the I guess the concept is like there's like this 3D animated mascot tree that's also like got a dirty old man personality, and he works with either I think it's Enjoy in the studio, and that's kind of the concept around the album. I'd like to mess around with some ideas like that, you know, like um, I like skits a lot, as you
Hmm.
know, so maybe we'll have some skit type stuff, or maybe I'll just record something funny. Right now, in terms of what I might release musically next, like I said, I have like something a little prepared for a promo. Which, if you want to hear maybe what I'm kind of drawing from in it. It's kind of like I'm drawing from a song called "The Central Scrutinizer" by Frank Zappa. It it's like a track, and then it has a voiceover, and the voiceover is kind of funny. And
Okay.
maybe I'll put it to like a video or something too before the album or the EP comes out because it's pretty little funny. It's like another thing I've been interested in is like voice acting. I'm not really good on the spot, but if I was in my zone and I wanted to make a funny voice or I wanted to act out a certain character, it'd definitely be possible. So maybe moving forward, maybe I'll think of like a concept album. I mean, I know I've talked to you guys before about making one like that. Um, that would probably come out under Rookie, but that's a little ways in the future. So between then and now, there might be some stuff in between that comes out. Um, that I'm just trying to like release my creative energy onto.
Hmm.
Um, but definitely look out in the future for more, way more involved and developed projects because eventually I do want to move on to something that isn't just in GarageBand and maybe has some more acoustic or uh, how do I say this analog ways of recording the instruments and getting the songs onto paper.
All right, cool. All right, well, it's been great talking with you again. This has been Rookie. His debut EP, Rookie EP, is
Hey,
coming out once again this Friday. Again, if you'd like to pre-order those tapes, you can. The link in the description or on lonelybirdrecords.limitedrun.com. This has been the first episode of Off the Donut, which I forgot was the name of it again. Again, Gavin, shout out to you for
shout out to Gavin.
for that Twitter name. So thank you all for watching. I'm not sure how often this is going to happen. It'll happen more than once, probably. So thanks again for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.
All right.